Hi, I'm Paul Friedman, founder of the Marriage Foundation, and this video is kind of cool. It's best to not hear these 3 things from your husband. Hi, welcome back. I'm Paul Friedman, and I'm going to share some early warning signs. These are 3 things that it's best to not hear from your husband, and I'm going to set this up in a way that gives you kind of information ahead of time so that you know maybe things aren't as good in our marriage as I would like them to be. And I'm going to share with you some ideas of how to move in the right direction. Because don't forget, when we got married, it was because we fell in love. You married your soulmate. That has not changed. You married your soulmate and you wanted to experience, you craved that happiness and that love that are the promises of marriage. So getting right into this, number 1 is if he says something along the lines of, hey, I have a new friend at the office and she is really nice. Now, I'm not going to get into the psychology of all this. I think it's pretty obvious if he's telling you that he met someone and it's a she, then what he's telling you is that you're not enough. Because when a man is completely in love with his wife, he's in love with the life of marriage with his wife, and he doesn't want to do anything that might mess it up. It's just is obvious, isn't it? And so if he's telling you this, he's not sending you a message intentionally, but there is an underlying subtext to this. What he's saying to you is, honey, we need to improve our marriage. He's also saying, I am running out of ideas for how to do that. Now, he may still be having sex with you all the time. He may still be paying compliments to you all the time. He may be acting very normally or even, and this is another problem, a little too good. And if this is happening, you have the power to transition your marriage from the trend, which is slowly moving downward, to a trend that is moving upward. There's a problem that we have in our society, and that problem is a complete lack of understanding of marriage. Let me elaborate on this, because this is not an easy one for people to just accept. Let's use an analogy. When you went to get your driver's license, it wasn't just out of the blue. You didn't show up at motor vehicle department and say, hey, here I am. Give me my driver's license. My dad got me this really nice car. I'm going to get in that car and I'm going to drive all over because now I'm 16 years old and I can do that. No. Through sensibility, your parents and society has deemed it necessary for you to learn certain things. You need to learn about the car, how it starts, how it operates, what that brake pedal does, what happens when you step on the gas, what happens when you turn the signal, what it's saying to other drivers. You're learning all about the vehicle. It's very important. It's not specific to a particular vehicle, but all vehicles have similar characteristics, and it's your job to learn those. Otherwise, what happens? You would get in the car, you wouldn't even know how to start it, but let's say you did and you started it, and somehow you managed to get it into drive, and you took off. Within minutes, you'd be wrapping that car around a tree. The other thing that you need to learn when you're getting a driver's license is you need to learn the rules of the road. How do I engage with a stop sign, traffic light, yield signs, etc.? You learn about other drivers on the road because you have to be very careful. You learn about pedestrians. You learn about the limitations of your vehicle. You learn about the limitations of your own driving. You know, for instance, when you first get that car, to be very careful when it's raining, right? You learn about the limitations. You also learn not to drink alcohol and drive because it will kill you. So there's all of this education that you get just to learn how to drive a car. Well, by now you realize what I'm driving at, and that is that your marriage is more complicated than driving a car. Why don't we look at that as society and then teach our children, you, when you were a child, how to live a married life, how to gain the benefits. We know what the benefits are for driving. You get from point A to point B in comfort. You have an air conditioner in the car, a heater in the car. There's a science to driving. There's also a science to being married. The problem is that we're not taught that science. The reason why we're not taught that science is because people don't realize there's a science. Now, I used to be a divorce mediator. In 2001, I changed, I converted. I was a dedicated divorce mediator. I believed in divorce. Now I look back, there's not one couple who I helped get a divorce who today I couldn't teach how to live their married life in a very positive way where they gain the benefits of marriage. Do you see where I'm going with this? You don't know the benefits of marriage because you were never taught them. Let's go over them now. There's no reason why not. What's the number one benefit? You might say, well, I will be with someone till the end of my life or the end of their life. That's one reason people get married. Another reason they get married is because they want to have children. But what about the essence of your marriage? That essence of your marriage was when you fell in love with your husband and you were thrilled because that love that you experienced was so overwhelming, it literally transcended the mind's capacity to understand it. Let me say that in a little different way. Your mind is a calculator. Don't think of it as I am my mind. There's a philosopher, Descartes, who said, I think, therefore I am. But he was incorrect. It's a kind of an atheist way of saying, I have consciousness, I am aware, and I can think, and that's how I know I exist. But it's not correct. The truth is that we are souls. This is not a religious discussion. It's just a matter of fact. Now, I've helped many atheists, well, as many as came to me, or people who don't know much about, loving God and feeling His presence and the like. And I said, okay, substitute the word consciousness for soul. I am a consciousness. I exist. And consider that your mind is a possession. And it has a very useful part of you. Think of the mind as a possession that is very useful to you. Look at all the things it does. It calculates, it filters, it weighs things in the balance so you can make decisions. But what can it not do? This is very important. What it cannot do is experience love. Now, emotions, which are part of the mind, can feel the result of love, but it can't, and you can trust me on this, that the mind is incapable of experiencing love as love. And so what happened when you fell in love, it's kind of a reversal. Now, a lot of people say, well, I fell in love with him because he made me laugh. That's one of the most common answers that people give. I fell in love with him because I knew he would be a good protector for our children. More realistic. I fell in love with him because he's tall, dark, and handsome. And we could go on, and everyone has a different reason. But these reasons are of the mind. And what came before that reason was I fell in love. And the I fell in love indicates that love comes before the thinking. In other words, you, the soul, experienced love, and then the mind jumped in and said, well, here's why. There's kind of a competition between the mind and you, the soul. Now, if we were taught, and I teach this in my books, I teach this in the online course that we offer, and I teach, and it's a very important thing to learn, the hierarchy of soul, mind, and body. We don't think about that at all. We're not taught to. No one explains it to us. And yet it's an essential part of being married because we have to use our discrimination and set aside these thoughts that I refer to them as detrimental thoughts and replace them with beneficial thoughts. Now, let's go back to the topic. And I didn't get off track. These are very important things. And you could learn much more with a free 10-day course that we have. But let's get into this a little differently. Because of this lack of education, you and your husband have been driving your marriage vehicle around in circles. And so there's this lack. Some people describe it as, well, we just don't feel the love the same way. The fire is gone. The spark is missing. We're getting used to each other. It's just not happening the way it used to happen. That's because you're driving your marriage vehicle around in circles. But when you understand marriage, and you're not going to learn enough, these are great videos. We have hundreds of them, and we have over 100,000 subscribers. But what you really need is a deeper education so you can appreciate what you have as you start developing an understanding of what you have, so you could focus on nurturing and cultivating the love that exists between you. Not with these silly little things that some people suggest, like, dressing up fancy and, cooking a good meal or having a date night again. But there's an inner work that we are required to do in order to have a better marriage. And when you're told by your husband, oh, I just met somebody, and let's leave the rest open-ended. I just met somebody. And the subtext is, and I like her. It's a warning sign. And now is the time to do something about it. You really don't know how far that relationship has already gone anyway. So probably at a minimum, get one of my books. If you have a feeling that, hey, there's a lot more going on than just he met somebody and he likes them a little bit, then you may need the full-on online course for women. Number 2, I chose this as a warning sign because it comes up quite often, and that is, honey, I need some alone time. Well, maybe yes, and likely no. What are you doing with that alone time? Are you going off to go fishing? Or do you just want to get away from me? I'm not trying to set you up and have you start going down a road of paranoia. But the context in this case is pretty important. I mean, if your husband wants to go fishing, men are solitary creatures by nature. And so it could be that all he wants to do is do something on his own. I used to go chop wood. I used to work on my car. There's many things that I did where, frankly, my wife would not have any interest in it. And I didn't have any interest in teaching her about chopping wood or explaining things. I mean, there's just some things that you would rather do on your own and he would rather do on his own, but you have to watch out because it could be that he's expressing to you another thought that I don't really want to hear you for a while. And then you go, well, why not? What did I do? What did I say? Or you might go, well, screw you. Either way, you're not contributing to the power of your marriage when you are reacting in that way to what was conveyed as information to you. So it is really important for you, and this is advice, to check your inner reactions before they become manifested, before they come out as defensiveness or fear or anxiousness or anything else that is not contributing. Now, we don't learn how to communicate with one another in marriage. And it's very important to learn how to communicate in marriage. It's critical to learn how to communicate in marriage. In fact, in my books and in the course, there's a lot of dedicated time to marital communication because marital communication is very different because it's purposeful. In most communications, it's business. I need this, or I'm responding to your need, and we're going to have a conversation about it, blah, blah, blah. Or it might even be philosophical, or it might even be chit-chat with your friend. But when you're married, everything that you do in your marriage and outside of when you're with your husband should be contrived towards creating more love in your marriage. What is the essence of marriage? It's love. We don't even talk about that very much. Instead, you go to most, let's say, marriage counselors, and where do they go? They go, well, what's wrong? What do you feel that's missing? And how can he help you? How can she behave in a different way for you? And honestly, that's not doing any good because you don't need direction from the outside. What you need to do is cultivate the love within, and then how you behave is a natural extension. And there's many ways to expose this. You know, if you're feeling really cold, no one needs to tell you to go get a sweater or crank up the thermostat. You just do it. It's natural. Your marriage is not about need. It's about satisfying the greatest need that all of us have, the need for love, because that love creates happiness, joy. And that's why we get married. And that's what we're not doing. And so if your husband is communicating in this way, once again, you're driving your vehicle of marriage around in circles, and you need to get back on the track of improving your marriage methodically. People don't realize marriage is a scientific entity. Love can be approached scientifically. Doesn't lessen it. We should learn about the powers that we have, where the buttons are, where the controls are, and use our free will to improve our marriage. Number 3, and this is really for younger couples, when your husband says, I've been thinking about it, I don't think we should have kids. It's very painful to hear this. A woman's destiny, her subconscious, is driven to have children. It's not that we are slave to the procreative instinct, but we blend our love with it so that we could learn, and this is a very important idea, learn to love unconditionally. Because I'll tell you right now, having kids, if you don't know this already, having kids is a big lesson in unconditional love. What we don't realize is that marriage is purposeful too. It's a very esoteric purpose. We get married so that we could learn to love unconditionally. Now I'm going to go into this a little bit. This is deep, but I want to share this with you because it's important. And this is not religious stuff. Some people might go, oh yeah, that's just religious stuff. Well, it's not. Just because something is spiritual doesn't mean it's tied to a particular religion. Striving to know God, our Father, our Mother, our friend, our beloved, should be natural for all of us. But society intimidates us. It tells us we're not scientific, we're not rational, we're not reasonable. And that's why there's this big spread between, some politicians said, you're going to clutch your Bible or something like that, your guns and your Bible. And it creates this distance between people who don't believe in God and people who do believe in God. And it's not even about a belief in God. It's about identifying the reality of what we actually are and how that ties in to our marriage. And what we are, I said this before, we're souls. And how it ties into our marriage is pretty clear. We married our soulmate. And we will do anything to experience happiness. That's our mission in life. And at some point we realize, maybe only subconsciously, that the only way to experience true happiness is by experiencing love. What better person can we experience love with, not from, than our soulmate? And so our mission, you might say, which should become the undercurrent for your marriage, is to learn to love your husband unconditionally. Think about that word, unconditionally. It doesn't mean reciprocal. Well, if I love him unconditionally, he's going to love me unconditionally. That's not unconditional love. When we give our vows, when we get married, it's not a deal. We're not saying, I'll do this for you, you do this for me. Because it's our self as an individual who ultimately we report only to God. And so we need to learn to love unconditionally. In our marriage, it's a microcosm so that we can carry that into the bigger picture of learning to love God unconditionally. We know he loves us unconditionally, or we would be dust for all the mistakes that we've made, all the things we've done wrong. But forgiveness is top on his list when it comes to us as children. So we need to learn to love our husband the way God loves us. Makes sense? And so we don't want to hear, I don't think we should have kids. And you can't argue this point with your husband. But what you can do is you could transition your marriage from stagnant, boring, to living how it's meant to be, filled with ever-increasing love and joy. And that's really what marriage is all about. Ever-increasing love and joy. I'm Paul Friedman. I founded the Marriage Foundation. And if you want to hear more of these videos, subscribe. If you really like this video, share it on social media. Leave a comment if you wish. Go to our website if you wish. If you have a question for one of our counselors, we've been doing this for over 25 years. We really know what we're doing, and we can help you with your marriage. So thank you for stopping by. God bless you. Take care.